Hi there, Matt Boggs here with Project Everlasting and Cracking the Man Code. This is video number 3. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about how men fall in love. And the one word you can use that actually facilitates that process, helps us fall in love faster, and is what I call the alchemy of sex drive. Because how men fall in love is very, very different than how women fall in love, and it has to do with how we're wired up. So let's take a quick glimpse into how a man's brain is wired up. A man's brain is completely compartmentalized. It's like a giant apartment complex. And we have one apartment for each thing in our life. We have one apartment for the money we make, our job. We have one apartment for seeing, one apartment for hearing, one apartment for eating, one apartment for our car, one apartment for you, a giant penthouse apartment for sex, an apartment for sports. We have a little mini studio apartment for our feelings. And the trick is we can only be in one apartment at a time. They've done functional brain scans of men while they're reading the newspaper, and the apartment that controls our hearing is completely separate from the apartment that controls our vision. So when we're in our visual apartment, the compartment that controls hearing is totally like dark. It's literally like we're deaf when we're trying to watch the TV or reading a newspaper. Have you ever tried to get a man's attention when he's watching SportsCenter? Right? Highly difficult. So we can only be in one apartment at a time. This is very, very different than a woman's brain. A woman's brain is completely connected. Okay, where your job is connected to your car, is connected to the money, is connected to how you feel about yourself, is connected to your girlfriends, is connected to your relationship, is connected to your clothes, the clothes that you wear, is connected to everything. Your connection center, the corpus callosum, right in between your right hemisphere and left hemisphere, is bigger than a man's, up to 20% bigger than a man's, and it's connecting everything. There's a great book title that says, men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti. So your emotional area and your sexual area are super connected. So often in a relationship, you not only know, and this isn't all the time, but this is sometimes, and the majority of time, women will know how they feel about a man much sooner than a man will know how he feels about a woman. Because the area that controls his sex drive is entirely on the opposite side of his brain from where his emotions are. And the sexual area of his brain is huge and the emotional area is tiny. It's like saying the sexual area of his brain is Miami and the emotional area of his brain is Seattle, right? Like that's how far apart they are. So I call this the law of Miami, because when a man meets you, typically he's in the sexual area of his brain, which is a good thing. It means he's attracted to you. Men do not marry women they're not attracted to sexually. Right? So this is a good thing. You want him in Miami, so to speak. And I call this Mr. Miami. You know, he sees you and he's like, oh my goodness, look at her, look at her hair, look at her eyes. She is gorgeous, right? And so he's like feeling, and let's say this is a good guy, right? We can feel this guy and we push him down and we say, no, you know, we come up, we try to meet you and we're like, hey, you know, my name is Matt, what's your name? Oh, where are you from? And he comes in and he says, we do not care where she is from. We want her to know where we are from, you know. And he's got this like, this dueling forces inside of him, is this big sex drive, and then he also wants to be a good guy. So let's say, so this brings me to the one word that allows a man to fall in love with you, because oftentimes, and depending on the man and depending on his set of morals and whatnot, when he's going out with you, there's this sexual energy. He's wondering if he's going to get some action. And that word that allows him to fall in love is no. The word is no. And the word is no is you're not going to sleep with him. You're not going to give it up until he signs your contract. Now, what is your contract? And I'm borrowing that phrase from Dr. Pat Allen, who's brilliant. The whole concept is genius. Your contract is what's required to be with you before you will sleep with him. Right? The status of the relationship. Right? What do you need in this relationship, mentally, emotionally, right, before you will sleep with him? Do you want to be married before you'll sleep with him? You get to decide. These are your morals, your values. This is your contract. You get to decide. Do you want to be married? Do you want to be in a committed, monogamous relationship? Or are you just out there to have fun too? But you need to communicate that to him before before you jump in bed. When do you communicate that? When you're both vertical and clothed. You've got your clothes on. Talk about that, what's required, because it's going to be critical. Because what happens is this. He takes you out, tries to hook up, you say no. Then he says, most girls say no one time. So he takes you out again, tries to hook up, you say no. He says, most girls say no twice. So he takes you out again. I don't know how many times it takes, but eventually he'll come to this conclusion. Every man does. If the woman doesn't give it up, he'll come to this conclusion and say, you know what? If I hang out with her again, I'm not going to get any action. So the only reason I'm going to hang out with her is because I like her and I have an emotional connection with her, and she's a cool chick. She's a cool woman. So at that point, he will travel out of Miami, out of his emotional apartment, and he'll journey all the way to Seattle, right, which is where his emotional apartment is. So he'll go from his sexual apartment, all the way to his emotional apartment and figure out how he feels. And for some men, that's a long trip. For some men, they don't check out Seattle very often. They'll go all the way to the other side of this apartment complex, to that tiny studio apartment to where his emotions are, and he'll go through questions. He'll say, you know, do I feel like a man around her? Do I want to be with her? Do I have what it takes to make her happy? All those questions that we go through as men to decide, how do I feel about this woman? And am I willing to give up all the other clubs in Miami in order to be with her? So there is a tremendous amount of energy men have, that sexual energy. We have about 20 times more testosterone than women do. Testosterone for both of us is what drives our sex drive. This is why men want it more typically. So that's a huge amount of force and energy that you're using by saying no. You're saying, look, you want some of this, then I need to have this contract signed. I want monogamy. I want commitment. I want a deep emotional connection, not even emotional, mentally, spiritually. I want to be connected with you. That's a lot of motivation that he has to deliver that to you. And stating your want is also one of the sexiest things a woman can do. One of the sexiest four-letter words a woman can speak is W-A-N-T, is want. Because that's providing a blueprint for us to be able to deliver to you something that will make you happy. It triggers that in us. And so a lot of women ask, you know, when is it okay to have this conversation? Right? Usually is when he's trying to get some action from you. That's when you can let him know, you know, what your status is and what your contract is. My fiance, on our first date, don't worry about having this conversation, because you're never going to scare away a guy who doesn't want a commitment. If a guy is ready and he's there in his life and you say that you want, he's like, okay, but here's the nuance. State it as what you want, not necessarily what you want with him. State it as what you want in your life. The very first date I went on with my fiance, it was our first date, after dinner, we're sitting in the car and she's just talking about her life and she's talking about what she wants. And I remember her saying, she said, you know, I am so tired of dating guys who just want to have fun and are not serious and not looking for anything special, because I really want something special. I want something serious. I want to have something profound in my life. And I remember looking at her going, I might be able to give that to you. I don't know yet. I don't know if you're the one yet, but I might be able to do that, because I kind of feel like I'm in the same place in my life. And it was so profound. And 3.5 years later, I proposed and we're getting married in August. So I can tell you firsthand that this stuff works. So I hope you've enjoyed these 3 videos. I hope they've enriched your life, and I encourage you to go out there and love openly, live fully, and really shine your true, authentic self. This is Matt Boggs. We'll talk soon.